Greetings, RAs. Thank you for your commitment to Clayton State University. My name is Dr. Shakir Abdullah. I'm the Vice President of Student Affairs here at Clayton State. Today I'm going to do a training for you. I want to talk through some of the things that we work on and some of the things that we do in student affairs. And I always like to start conversations about student affairs with your first thoughts. What do you think of when you hear student affairs? I'm curious because I know as an undergraduate student, I didn't know a whole lot about student affairs. And so it's important to talk about the division and the unit that you're going to be working in as a paraprofessional. Student affairs has a number of units. And so those units include campus visitors and information services, the Disability Resource Center, career services, university housing and residence life, the Office of Community Standards, Student Life and the Student Activity Center, Counseling and Psychological Services, University Health Services, the Dean of Students, and then also the Veterans Resource Center. That's a lot of units besides University Housing and Residence Life. You all are paraprofessionals in University Housing and Residence Life, and you've got a job. This is not going to be an easy job, but it should be a rewarding job. Obviously, a lot of folks take the job because of the perks. The perks are housing and meals and things like that, but you also get a chance to really get to know a good group of students. My challenge to you is to make sure that this is more than just room and board. Make sure that this is more than just a job and a stipend. I want you all to have a dedication and a commitment to this work and a dedication and a commitment to the students that you serve. And we'll talk a little bit about why that's important as we go through today's training. So let's talk about the units within the Division of Student Affairs. So campus visitors and information services, they help folks figure out how to navigate their ways around campus. You've probably seen the folks who do this work at the front desk in the University Center. You also probably see them at the guard station when you come in the main entrance at Clayton State, and then they do some other things as well. Many of you remember the Ask Me program and the folks in the orange shirts. That is Campus Information and Visitor Services as well. That's a part of the Division of Student Affairs. The Disability Resource Center is another unit within the Division of Student Affairs. The Disability Resource Center makes sure that students have the accommodations they need, whether they're short-term or long-term accommodations for whatever disability or whatever condition a person is experiencing. And it is important to direct students to the Disability Resource Center. It may be that students had an IEP in high school, they had some additional support, and they need to make sure that they get that documented. The Disability Resource Center can help you. The Disability Resource Center is located in Edgewater Hall, so if you need a chance to go over there and kind of familiarize yourself with it, please go and visit that facility. And because of social distancing, just look in the door so that you know where it's at and so that you can walk a student over there if you have to do that. Career Services is another unit within the Division of Student Affairs. Career Services is critical to what we do. Obviously, all of you want a job when you graduate from Clayton State. You want to make sure that you end up in a place or in a position that's fulfilling and a position that actually helps you maximize your skill sets. It's critical that you start working with the Career Services office as soon as you get here. You want to encourage your students and your residents to make sure that they're working with Career Services, and then you can be thoughtful about how you can work with Career Services as well. One of the beautiful things about this job as an RA is that you're going to be developing some vital skills, some really, really important skills that you can transfer to full-time jobs after you graduate. You're going to learn how to manage people. You're going to learn how to engage and communicate with people. You've got time management that you have to master. You've also got checking in with your students on a regular basis that you have to master. These are all really good skills that are transferable, and so you want to make sure that you keep track of the work that you do. You want to document it. You've got some inventory skills that you'll develop and you'll build. And these are all things that people want to know that you can do once you get out into a full-time job opportunity. So make sure you keep track of that, and Career Services can help you with that. The Office of Community Standards. You're going to get much more familiar with this office, particularly as you have students who have conduct issues. The Office of Community Standards will work with those students to help adjudicate whatever issue has emerged, and you want to make sure that you get them on track. You want to make sure that students avoid this office. I mean, there are some mandatory things that they'll have to take advantage of, some trainings, and those trainings need to be completed in order for students to get holds removed from their account. But the reality is that you don't want to spend a whole lot of time, and you don't want your residents to spend a whole lot of time working with the Office of Community Standards. One of the things that I hear often is that a significant challenge for the Office of Community Standards is that a number of students have plagiarized, or they have been accused of plagiarizing by a professor. Help your students understand the writer's workshop and some of those other resources so they don't get caught up in plagiarizing, because I think plagiarizing and marijuana smoking are the top two cases and the top two violations that students experience. So get to know this office and help steer your students away from this office, except for the required trainings that they need to complete. The student life and the campus activity center. This is a really good partner for you. It's going to be really interesting this year in terms of programming. You all are going to have to work on some virtual programming, some remote programming. Partner with Student Activity Center and Campus Life. They're going to be doing a lot of remote programming, a lot of virtual programming. These things are going to be different opportunities for your students to be engaged, students to get to know each other. They've got a range of programs. There are going to be some in-person programming, maybe some in-person intramural, but not a whole lot. This is also the place where if students want to work out, this facility, the Student Activity Center, is that facility. You want to make sure that students are familiar with it. And I know many of you are familiar with these things as well, but I want to make sure that I talk to you and explain it to you from kind of a beginning standpoint. I want to make sure that you understand how we see the units within student affairs and the roles that those units play, because those units and really the resources within those units are going to be helpful to you in your jobs and helpful to your students as they create a successful pathway and a successful plan to graduate and navigate through Clayton State University. So just wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of those. And also student organizations are housed in the Student Activity Center. We've got our esports housed in the Student Activity Center. So all of these resources are available for your students. We want to encourage them to take advantage of it. We want to encourage you to take advantage of them, because this work can be stressful. Sometimes working out is a tool that helps you navigate, and another unit within student affairs that helps you manage your stress and will help your students and your residents manage their stress is counseling and psychological services. Counseling and psychological services, or CAPS, is available for all of our students. There are no additional charges to take advantage of that. They'll help you develop healthy coping mechanisms, healthy time management and personal management skills, because the reality for a lot of your new residents, this is going to be a new experience for them. A lot of meetings and a lot of engagement is going to be virtual, and it's going to be online. So it may help students feel even more comfortable working with and engaging in counseling and psychological services resources, because as people make the transition and the adjustment back to campus, we want to make sure that they have all these resources and make sure that they understand counseling and psychological services is there to help with that transition, and really there to help with all of the challenges that emerge. Some students may have anxiety about being a college student. They may have anxiety about their majors or whatever it may be. Counseling and psychological services is there to help students and to help them through those tough times. In addition, we've got University Health Services. University Health Services is located in Laker Village. So you actually will have a chance to probably go over there and take a tour of the space and know where it's at, because you want to be able to know how to walk a student over to University Health Services, and you want to make sure that they understand that resource. University Health Services, again, is free to students. There are some services that that students will have to be charged for, but they can take care of you just like any doctor's office or any urgent care or anything like that. You just want to make sure students are aware of that and make sure that they know where to go. And I mentioned counseling and psychological services. I forgot to mention their location. They're in Edgewater Hall along with career services as well as the Disability Resource Center. The Office of Community Standards is in Suite 250 of the University Center. So just so you know where some of these places are, and obviously the Student Activity Center is a standalone location, and it's just across the way from Laker Hall. If you walk through that wooded area right at the front of campus, you go through there, you'll be right at the Student Activity Center. The Dean of Students is also located where the Office of Community Standards is. The Dean of Students oversees that office, and the Dean of Students also works with the undergraduate student government. And I want to make sure that you all encourage your residents to get involved in student government, the SGA. You want to make sure that they get involved and they represent their class and they represent their areas of interest, because these are really important skills. These connections are important for students, to help students figure out if they want to stay at the university. They get a chance to build these partnerships. They get a chance to build relationships. And it's important, obviously, not to just build those relationships with each other in the residence halls, but also with faculty and staff and other students around campus. So that's the Dean of Students. And then the Veterans Resource Center is another Division of Student Affairs unit. And they work with students who are veterans or students who are receiving veterans benefits. So this is a really important resource for a lot of students to take advantage of. I want to make sure we encourage our students to take advantage of those resources. And it may be that some students don't even know that they can take advantage of the veteran resources. So when you talk to students, try to get to know them. You may learn a little bit about their family background, their personal background, and then it may come up that they have a parent or a guardian who's been in the military, or themselves have been in the military, and they want to be able to take advantage of these resources. So the Veterans Resource Center, again in Edgewater Hall, you want to send students over there who can benefit from those resources. So when we talk about student affairs, you heard about a whole bunch of different units. All those units work together to make sure that students have what they need outside of the classroom. The reality is students spend only about 15% of their time in the classroom. And so they've got 85% of their time that they got to figure out what to do with. Obviously, they want to spend that time studying. Some students spend that time working. Some students spend that time socializing. But we want to make sure that they're engaged in some of the units within student affairs and involved in the programs and activities, not only the ones that are hosted by student affairs, but the ones that you all are hosting as well. So it's important to help students understand how their days are going to be structured. College is so very different from high school, as you all can attest to, but sometimes that transition is harder for others. It's hard sometimes to make the most of the newfound freedom for some students. So you just want to encourage them to take advantage of those resources, because their time is their own, and they want to make sure that they own their time in order to be as successful as they possibly can be. So what do we want? Why do we have all these units organized in such a way? Well, we want our students to have a number of learning outcomes. We want to make sure that students understand that it is not enough to just be a student at Clayton State. Academic success is great. You did great in high school. Now all of a sudden you're in college is going to be a totally different experience. So we want to make sure that students understand it's not enough to just be here. It's not enough to just get here and get accepted at Clayton State. We really want to make sure that you thrive at Clayton State. We want you to stay here. We want to make sure that you persist. So it's not enough to just get here that first semester and wild out and act a fool. We want you to do well academically, and we want you to make connections so that you're back in the spring. We want to make sure that you all tell your residents and help them understand that it's not just enough to have one semester under their belt. We want them to graduate. If you start at Clayton State, we want you to finish at Clayton State. And the reality is, maybe Clayton State isn't the place, but we want them to finish. And folks who transfer out, they need to make sure that they have a strong GPA and those strong connections to collegiate experiences so that they are ready for whatever is next for them. So obviously, we want them to do well academically. That's a part of what we want to encourage them to do. And many of you have learned about the Laker Hall Student Success Center. So you're going to encourage your students to take advantage of that opportunity and encourage students to get engaged and involved in that opportunity. So that's certainly one of those things that we want to keep in mind. We want to make sure students connect with other students. It's going to be really difficult this fall because we're going to be practicing social distancing. We're going to be encouraging students to wear their masks. I mean, we really got to make sure we do that because that's going to keep us all safe. But we still need to be able to make those connections. We may not be able to have the same kind of human touch that we're used to, going up, hugging friends and really hanging out. We have to be safe. But at the same time, make sure we help our residents, help our students get to know each other, create different opportunities, whether they're FaceTime Hangouts or Microsoft Team Hangouts, whatever it is, you want to make sure that you take advantage of technology to get our students connected. We want to make sure that students have those opportunities to engage with each other. And I'm actually optimistic. I think the engagement may be even a little bit greater this year because students don't have to worry about putting themselves all the way out there. Their schedules may be that they can't get from one building to another building, and then they can connect virtually. So I'm excited about that. I think that's going to help us keep students connected. It's going to help you certainly connect with students as you check in with them regularly, via virtual methods and virtual platforms. We also want to make sure that students connect with faculty and staff. Again, it's going to be a little bit different this year. Lots of classes are going to be online. It's going to be smaller numbers of students in the classrooms. All these things are going to make it a little bit difficult, but we want to make sure that those connections happen because it's not enough to just be connected to your classmates. Students, you need to encourage your residents to get to know their faculty, to get to know the staff, because those are the people who are going to help write letters of recommendation. I remember as an undergraduate student, the person that I remembered the most was my RA because they were the paraprofessional or the adult that I saw the most and I was in touch with the most. So you all have a really, really important job, and this job is part connector. You're going to be connecting students to each other, connecting students to the rest of the institution. You're going to be connecting with these students, and they're going to really see you as a strong resource. So I encourage you to be that resource. I encourage you to help students understand that the importance of these connections, because that's going to make a difference. Because obviously we want to make sure that students are prepared for their careers. We want to make sure that they're prepared to navigate through Clayton State. And ultimately, we want to make sure that these students graduate. So wanted to give you an overview of student affairs, give you a sense of what our division is all about. I think this is helpful. I mean, you can look at the cartoons or whatever it is we're sharing to give you a sense of an overview of student affairs, but sometimes being able to talk through it helps you all understand the work and how this work is interconnected. And again, you all have a big job. You have a really, really significant job, and you are a support for our students. And it's important to be dedicated to the job. It's important to make sure that you get students connected to all the units within student affairs, and then also help them navigate through academic affairs as well. You all are paraprofessionals. I mean, you're not a full-time staff person, but you're going to be on call for some weekends and throughout the night, and it's going to be difficult sometimes. It's going to seem like every time you're on duty, something's going on. This is a part of the work, and it's important that you practice self-care. It's important that you take care of yourself. You get the rest that you need to, particularly on those days when you're not on call, and if you're preparing to be on call, make sure you're ready for that. It's important that you all take your role seriously. You're going to have to hold yourself accountable, and you're also going to have to hold your residents accountable. That is not easy, particularly when you're a peer. You want to be seen sometimes as cool. You just want to hang out and say, hey, I don't even know what y'all doing. I didn't see it, but you did see it. And it's your job to report it, because what's going to happen is if it doesn't, if you don't take care of it early, if you don't nip it in the bud, then your students are going to walk all over you. They're going to take advantage of you. They're going to be like, oh, that's my friend, that's my friend. And then all of a sudden, your friend's in violation, and now you're going to be caught up as well. So I want you all to hold yourselves accountable, as well as you hold your residents accountable. And the reality is, I mean, you all can do this. I think you wouldn't have been hired if we didn't think you can do this work, but it's going to be difficult. So you've got to practice. So if you need to practice with some other RAs, practice, hey, no smoking in the building, you can't drink. And this fall is going to be even different. You can only have visitors in the residence hall who are Clayton State students. So that's going to be a difficult transition for a lot of students. The students think, oh, I want to bring my significant other, I want to bring my friends from home, I want to do all that. That stuff's not going to be possible as we start the semester. As we get through, we may be able to loosen some of those regulations, but as of right now, particularly as we're looking at increases in COVID-19 in the Atlanta metro area, the state of Georgia, we have got to be safe, and we've got to do our best to keep you all safe and keep our residents safe. So these are some of the things that we have to pay attention to. And again, holding yourself accountable, holding each other accountable. As RAs, you all know who's doing the work. You all know who's not carrying their weight. When you see somebody not carrying their weight, go talk to them, get them back on track, figure out what's going on. And maybe just this was a tough week, or maybe that, somebody's preparing for a midterm, but you all have to hold yourselves accountable and hold each other accountable, just as you hold your residents accountable. And we're going to be there for you. And this is not, a situation where we expect you to be perfect or anything like that, but we do expect you to be at your best and hold yourself accountable when you fall short of your best. So this is the work. This is what we want to do. And we also want you to be modeling appropriate behavior. So don't bring alcohol into the residence halls where it's visible and you're having parties and you're smoking and all that. You can't do that, because the students or your residents are going to think, well, shoot, my RA's doing it, I can do it too. No, please be at your best and try to be a professional, because your residents are going to test you. They are going to try to take you there. They're going to try to pull you out of your professional character and pull you into the muck and mire. Avoid that. Avoid that. Do your best to maintain your composure. If you're losing your composure, go call somebody else and say, listen, I need some help with this before I do whatever. Practice that. It is not easy, but if you practice it, if you rely on your fellow RAs, if you rely on your professional staff from housing and residence life and from student affairs and other areas on campus, we can help you do the best job possible, and we can help you be successful in this role. And this is important. And so you all have to work. You got to work to create the best community that you want. You've got to work, and you've got to resonate positive attitudes and a positive outlook, particularly in this uncertain time. You all can do it. I'm very confident in you. This is one of the reasons you were selected, because you have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to navigate through this work. And you're only going to improve and add to your toolbox of skills and abilities in order to be able to be the best RA possible, to support your residents and to support each other, because you all are a team. There are going to be some days you want to exchange your duty days and things like that. But that only happens, and people are only willing to do that if they know that you're going to do the same thing for them. If somebody believes that you have their back, they're going to have your back. So communication is critical, y'all. Make sure you communicate with each other, communicate with your professional staff, and communicate with your residents, because these are all things that we need you to do. We need you to take advantage of that, and that's going to help you thrive, and it's going to help you, have the best area that you can have in the residence hall. So again, lots of resources. We want to make sure you take advantage of them. Talk to people, get to know people. You should all have a go-to person in each one of the offices within the Division of Student Affairs. Just know who these people are, or figure out who can I call if I've got a question. And that only happens by making yourself known around campus and getting engaged and getting to know the folks in other units within student affairs or across campus. That can all make a really, really big difference. And then obviously you've got to maintain your academics. I mean, you're here to be a student, you're here to graduate, and you've got to maintain a certain GPA in order to keep your role as an RA. So don't lose sight of that goal while you're working to make sure you have the best area possible. So I want to make sure you all pay attention to that. What are some other things? Some other things that you may want to work on or your mediation skills, because you will see one of the biggest things that happens is conflict between residents, conflict between roommates, and they are going to want to say, hey, I just want to move out. I can't get along with this person. They're up all night and I'm trying to sleep all night. Whatever the conflict is, you've got to work on mediation skills, and you've got to figure out, how can I get to the best solution for these roommates? You can't just go with the one you like the best. You can't make a ruling based on the person who's the most fun or whatever it is. Make sure you have some real skills and you develop that mediation ability. And the reality too is sometimes you may need to call on another RA to help you out because you're too close to those RAs that are calling you. So those are some of the things to pay attention to, and some skills that we need to work with you on. The good thing is our Dean of Students has some training in mediation, and if you're interested, we can make sure we get you some of those mediation trainings. And obviously, we want to make sure you're committed to the work. We want to make sure that you have signed up for this job and you're going to be here throughout the entire year. And if something changes, you're going to communicate with us regularly. These are all the things that we expect and all the things that we're looking forward to. I really do want to thank you for your patience, and it's not easy just sitting here for a lecture. It's not as interactive as I would like it to be, but I want you all to be thoughtful about the things that I talk about. I hope that you've been taking notes throughout. And if you have questions for me, make sure you email me. My email is shakeer at clayton.edu. It's shakeer at clayton.edu. If you got questions about student affairs, email me. Your supervisors, the housing and residence life staff can get in touch with me and be in touch with me. I'm happy to meet with you all. I'm happy to be engaged with you to answer the questions that you have. But again, I just want to thank you all for your commitment to Clayton State, your commitment to your fellow students, and your commitment to student affairs. You all are a really big part of what we do. And I mean that, and I want to make sure that you understand I'm accessible so that we can work on what's best for all of our residents and all of our students here at Clayton State University. So thank you for your dedication, and go Lakers.